Good evening. I welcome you all on this second day of GirlScript India Regional Summit, and it is from Rajasthan region. And today we are here with the one more most awaited movement, that is webinar on Give Voice to Your Visuals, the Art of Presentation by one of our campus hero at GirlScript Foundation, Anayna Singh. She is currently the computer science undergraduate at NU, and she believes in the AI, artificial intelligence, also in front-end web development. So I will not waste your time and hand over mic to Anayna so that she can continue with the further presentation.
Hello everyone. Hi, it's Anayna here. So thank you all for joining and I'll start my presentation. So hello everyone. I'm Anayna Singh. I'm a student at NU and a part of the GirlScript Alba team. It's great to have you on board with us. I would also like to thank the GirlScript Alba team for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Thank you, GirlScript Alba. So without further ado, let's get started. So I'll be talking about some basic things in my presentation. So I'll first talk about what are bad slides and how to rectify them. Then I'll be talking about how to give your presentation. Then this will be followed by some additional tips that are required for you to know. Then I'll be telling you about how to prepare before a presentation, and followed by some tips for online presentations. So moving on, let me start by telling you a story. So this story dates back to when I was a freshman at university. So during the first few weeks of our college, to make the freshers more aware about the new opportunities and learnings around them, our college conducted an induction program where they conducted tons of workshops and seminars and presentations by great industry leaders. So I remember walking into the auditorium with a pen and a notepad, seeming all enthusiastic and motivated to attend my very first presentation of the campus. I sat down on a chair and started to wait for the presentation. So the presenter walked in on the stage and something was off from the very first time I saw the presenter. He lacked the enthusiasm and the motivation. 5 minutes in, and I started to doze off. And 15 minutes in the presentation, no one was listening to him. Imagine an auditorium full of 200 people. Half of the lot were like sleeping, and the other half was busy on their phones or like just gossiping away. It was a horrid sight. So cue back to when I was on my chair and I had bent my head down and I was like literally dozing off. Then this teacher, she comes up to me and she taps me on the back like, Anayna, what are you doing? You're not supposed to doze off in front of a presenter. He's giving a presentation, right? So I felt guilty. And then I sat up and I listened to the entire presentation. And oh Lord, it was such a bore. So now you would ask me, what made his presentation so bad? What was it? So don't worry, I'll guide you through all the reasons which make a presentation seem boring and bad and how to rectify them later on. So moving on, I'll start by the errors people make in their slides that lead to a bad presentation. So first I want to start off with some errors people make in their slides. So the number one error that people make is that their slide contains too many words. So what happens is when you put in a lot of sentences in your slide, You subconsciously make your audience read what is written on your slide instead of listening to what you have to say. This may also bore your audience as no one wants to do a lot of reading. See, if they were here only to read what you have written on your slides, they could have, just looked up articles on the internet. But no, they are here to listen to your presentation, right? So make people listen to your speech rather than making them read what's written on your slide. So how to rectify this error is to learn that less is more and only include points which are important and relevant to your presentation. These points can range from 4 to 6 in number and can be phrases. Please don't use full sentences as your bullet points. So moving on, second example of a bad slide is using a complicated font. See, you want people to be able to read your slides easily and not get distracted trying to make out what you have written. Also, trying to be over creative could also prove to be bad. Choosing a font color that is not visible and contrasting can make it difficult to read. For example, look at the text that is currently present before you on my slide. These are all examples of bad font text and font style. So how to rectify this error is to use standard font sizes like Times New Roman, Calibri, Arial, etc. The font size of your text should be of minimum like 16 to 18 slide, 16 to 18 size, or 18 to 22 size. Sorry. So font color, use a color which contrasts with the background. Also, be consistent with your font color. Don't keep changing it every slide or every bullet point. Moving on to yet another example of a bad slide is a slide which has distracting background. See, distracting background can make it difficult for people to read what is written on your slide. Use a simple. So what you want to do is you want to use a simple yet attractive background. Because when you're using a distracting background, first of all, the audience's attention goes off from your presentation and they continue to stare at your slide. And second of all, it is unprofessional. So what you want to do is you want to have a minimalistic background. So use simple yet attractive backgrounds and be consistent with your background. You do not have to keep changing it every slide. You do not want to be over creative. You can also use theme backgrounds for your presentation, and you can check out internet for more themes. See, I do not want you to limit yourself to the themes that are just present on Google Slides or Microsoft PowerPoint. What you can do is you can go to Google and you can type in presentation themes, and there would be a lot of cool presentations for you to check out with amazing graphics. And because visuals are everything, right? So I'm moving on to yet another example of a bad slide, which is a slide which has distracting animation. See, something like this. And this. See guys, come on. We are in Disney animators here trying to, make cartoons. We do not need to overdo on animations. Use simple animations that don't get the audience's attention off you by them following the floating text on your slide. See, use animations in your presentations that are subtle, like this and this. Please don't make text flow through your slides in a zigzag manner or some, weird effects. So my last example of a bad slide is like excessive text. Do not make use of excessive photos on your slide. Remember, it's a slide and not a collage. What you want to do is you want to insert powerful photos that reinforce the logic instead of adding 3 to 4 photos on the same slide. You want to use like 1 or 2 photos that goes with what you are saying and is really powerful. It captures the audience's attention and make them, interested to hear to what you have to say next. You do not want to add like 4 to 5 photos which are similar to each other. Then moving on, now that I've shown you some examples of bad slides and I've also told you how to rectify them, I would like to go back to the beginning of my presentation where I talked about how I got bored at the presentation that day in the auditorium. So now you must be asking, or what was about him that made us lose interest in the presentation so fast? Like, okay, the presentation was bad, his slides must not be good enough, but what was about him that made him a poor presenter? So, to get to know the reason, let's see some common practices to give a presentation. So, my first step is while giving the presentation, you need to deal with your jitters. The presenter who came on stage that day before us was very nervous and unsure of himself. His nervousness could be felt by everyone in the auditorium. Removing the element of nervousness comes only from practice. So practice several times before you give the actual presentation. Remember that being a bit anxious is pretty much normal, and even the best of the presenters, like those on TED Talks, get jitters. Second, you need to tell a story. You need the audience to get hooked on your presentation. All great speakers tell a story through their presentation. For example, I decided to base my presentation around my experience while attending the presentation that day. My third point is to talk clearly and slowly, as talking too fast shows your nervousness. See, this is one of the things that even I am guilty of doing sometimes. Like when I get nervous, instead of, talking slow or forgetting, what I do is like I start talking fast and people are unable to comprehend what I'm saying. So do not make this error. This is a very common error that people make. It's like they start speaking very fast. You want to talk in a way that people understand what you're saying. Your points are clear to them. You need to be clear. Then my next point is to vary the tone of your voice accordingly. So voice modulation helps in removing monotone from your speech. A flat, monotonous voice is one of the main reasons that make a presenter sound boring. That day, it took a maximum of 15 minutes for the presenter to put me to sleep. So my next point is to interact with the audience. Oh, this reminds me that I haven't really been doing that, have I? I hope you guys aren't sleeping on me. So, moving on to my next point is to give an impactful ending. The ending should be such that your audience remembers it even after they get out of the auditorium. Your presentation and your ideas should be imprinted in their brains. So now I have curated some additional tips that you may keep in mind to ace your presentation. So these are also very important. So number one is that gestures are advisable, but don't overdo it. What I mean is gestures like hand gestures are advisable, but I do not want you to, make you, but basically I do not want you to overdo it. Like during the entire presentation, you're moving your arms, your hands, and you're tilting your head and all. You do not want to do that. Why? Because this is a presentation. It's not a theater. If you want to like make use of your hands or head a lot, then you need to join a play. A presentation needs to be formal, and there are certain rules that you have to keep in mind. So moving on to my next point is that to make eye contact with your audience. Making eye contact establishes a relationship between you as a presenter and them as a listener. It also tells the audience that you have confidence in what you're talking about. See, if you do not make eye contact, it shows your nervousness. And if you are yourself nervous or uninterested about a presentation, how can you expect them to listen to you, right? So make eye contact with your audience and try to sound confident. And yeah, so that's it. So my second point is to repeat important points. Don't shy away from repetition of some important ideas or points throughout your presentation. So by repetition, I do not mean that you repeat a point, you repeat like a basic idea or a point 5 to 6 times during the presentation. No, what I mean is there are certain ideas that need reinforcement throughout the presentation, and so that's it. Also, you can what you can do is like there's a certain point that you made in the first half of a presentation, and which you also need to and for people to not able to forget what you said, you can repeat it again during the end of the presentation. So my next point is to not be monotonous and have spontaneity. See, even if you have prepared for your presentation beforehand, you have memorized your script in your head, and but if there is certain idea that comes up to you giving your presentation, so you may incorporate them. You may not need to stick to the script like 100%. If there is a new idea, I want you to talk about it in front of your audience. It would be very much appreciated. Also, you need to gauge the reaction of your audience. If the audience is bored, or if your audience is bored, what you can do is you can insert a few jokes that are on the spot, spontaneous. So I want you to do that. Then, till now, we have seen how some slides are considered bad and how to rectify them. We also saw some tips about how to give a presentation effectively. Now we come to the part where we talk about what happens before a presentation. This is often not talked about when we discuss presentation skills, but preparation before the presentation is something that makes the presentation successful. So the first point here is to research and make an outline for your presentation. You need to make sure that your presentation is clear and focused. You do not want to add unnecessary details. The second point is to know that less is more, and this is something that I've already talked about if you remember, and you weren't sleeping during my presentation. You do not want to overwhelm your audience with a lot of information or data. Even if they are interested in your topic, they will start spacing out when you throw in a lot of extra facts and info. My third point is my most important point, and that is to practice. Practicing your presentation lessens your nervousness and anxiety. It also gives you confidence when you finally perform before an audience. So practice, practice, and practice. Practice before your family, your friends, and in front of a mirror. My fourth point is to pick an outfit. This outfit needs to be formal or semi-formal. In cases of casual presentations, you do not want people to say that, oh, her presentation was good, but she could have put in more efforts to dress up. See, showing up in your in your basic t-shirt where your hair is not combed or you are in your slippers, it shows your lack of enthusiasm towards giving a presentation and lack of professionalism, and we do not want people to think that. Then moving on, see, now that we have discussed about how to prepare and give a wonderful presentation and not mess it up, let's move to discussing some important tips that are needed for online presentations. Seeing the current situation where everything is online, I decided that I needed to share some tips regarding online presentations too. So my first tip is to choose an empty background. See, before you point fingers at me, I know my background is not entirely, empty. So what I mean by an empty background is your background should not be chaotic. As in, you do not want to be sitting in front of a laptop with a kitchen scene behind you where there are people, cooking. Some people are eating or something like that. It's very chaotic and distracting. Like your audience will be able to see what happens in your house. And you also do not want that you're sitting in front of your laptop and there are curtains behind you that are, waving because of the wind. It's again very chaotic. What you need is to choose an unchaotic, empty background, which is, neutral. It's better if it's a, plain white background. So my second point is to make sure the lighting is sufficient and the internet connection is stable. See, you do not want people to not be able to see your face clearly, right? So you have to make sure that the lighting is sufficient. And you also have to make sure that the internet connection is stable. See, even if you have a Wi Fi, I want you to keep a backup internet connection option by you, by your side. So what happens is when you imagine a situation when your Wi-Fi goes down, something goes wrong, and you are disrupted from your online presentation, then 5-10 minutes of your time is wasted by logging back into your laptop or something like that. So to avoid that, you may keep your what I do is I keep my phone right next to me so that if by chance the Wi-Fi goes off, I can immediately switch to mobile data. And my third point is to know your keep your PowerPoint presentation ready and join the meeting on time. See, uh, I really like to be on time. So, for example, if a presentation is at 6 p.m., both the presenter and the audience need to be there on the platform on which the presentation is being conducted at 6 p.m. only. Why? Because if you aren't on time, you're wasting the time for both the presenter and you're also wasting your time along with others' time. Okay, so and also you need to keep your PowerPoint presentation and all the related documents that you would require during the presentation already open on your laptop before you start with your presentation. You do not want to log into your computer as a presenter and then search for, oh, where are my files? Where's my PowerPoint presentation? No, you do not need to do that. Keep everything already open on your laptop by 6 p.m. and then log into the meeting and then start with the presentation immediately or like wait for 5 minutes for people to start. But more than 10 minutes or so, you are just wasting the time for your audience and you're also wasting your time. So my fourth point is to dress up in formals as if you were giving a presentation on stage. See, many people take online presentations very lightly. So they would literally not comb their hair or not be dressed in formals. So what I want people to know is that at least appear decent before your audience, not like you were just you just woke up from your sleep and you were just sitting in front of a laptop. You don't want to be there or something like that. No, try to be professional. So moving on to basically concluding what all I've already talked about. So first of all, make sure your slides are in batch slides. Prepare your presentation in advance and practice. See, practice is the key to perfection. So I want you to practice, practice, and practice. Practice before your family, your friends. I myself practice like 2 to 3 times before my friends and my family before giving this actual presentation. And what you need to do is you can practice in front of them and take their honest opinions and suggestions upon how to improve. You can do that. Then the third point is to give your presentation with confidence and enthusiasm. See, if you lack confidence and enthusiasm, how can you expect your audience to have the same towards your presentation, right? It's only fair. So I want even the most boring topics seem interesting when you deliver it with confidence and enthusiasm. So try to incorporate that while giving a presentation. Then I also talked about how you need to tell a story through your presentation, as in you need something to get your audience hooked. You need something which makes your presentation important. Like why do I need to talk about this topic in my presentation? You can link that to a story. The story can be told during the beginning of the presentation or during the presentation too. But it's completely optional. It's up to you. My fifth point is to be prepared to give online presentations with the same enthusiasm as if you were giving it, offline on a stage in front of an audience. So then moving on to one small thing that I do wanted to share was to accept rejection and improve. See, there are many things that could go wrong during the presentation. It's not important that all of your presentations are successful, right? Things could go wrong as in you were underconfident, you forgot some very important points during the presentation, you got stuck during a presentation, or the people weren't ready to listen to what you have to say. There could be many reasons, and it also could not be your uh, basically it could not be your problem. It could be, there could be other issues like IT issues. For example, your internet connection was disrupted, or for some reason the presentation was not able to open on your laptop or something like that. So what I want you to know is that it's not the end of the world. See, if it's something that has to do with your skills, just accept your faults and try to improve. Take suggestions from the audience at the end of the presentation if you want, and ask them what was wrong with the presentation. If not from the audience, make sure you have your like 2 to 3 friends sitting for your presentation as audience, and after the presentation you can go to them and ask them what all could have been done better and what went wrong or something like that. Because what you need is honest suggestions and feedback for your presentation. It would help you to improve for the next time. And if it wasn't your fault, for example, there were IT issues or something went wrong, then just don't blame yourself for something that you can't help, right? Life is too long. Just move on and, try to focus on something else, maybe for your next presentation. So I also wanted to end my presentation by telling you why I chose the story about the presenter that day. See, at the end of the presentation that day, when I was sitting in the auditorium and the presenter was delivering his speech in the campus, at the end of the presentation, you know what he did? He accepted the fact that his presentation was boring, and he also accepted that yes, I know that most of you weren't listening to my presentation. So I really like that about him, because he also went on to say that you can suggest me ways to improve what went wrong with my presentation. And he also told people that he would try to improve the next time, as this was one of his first presentations. He wasn't used to giving presentations. So I really like that about him, that he was willing to change. He was accepting his mistakes before everyone, and he willingly, he wanted to change. So that's great. I was really inspired. So I want you to have the same, enthusiasm about it if your presentation goes wrong. So that was it. Thanks a lot for joining, guys. So you may have questions, you may ask them. If you do not, you can also mail your questions to me. My Gmail account is present on the screen before you, along with my LinkedIn account. So if there are any questions, you might pitch in.
Thanks, Anaya, for this lovely session.
Thank you. Well, it's Anayna, by the way.
Anayna. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a very common error, actually.
Yeah.
It's no problem.
The one question which is flooding in the chat box is that if we are not able to make eye contact during our presentation, then what is impact on the audience?
See, when you're not making eye contact with your audience, it shows your lack of confidence, and audience get bored easily. See, when you make eye contact with your audience, you're establishing a relationship between them and you. When you're looking at your audience through the eyes, your audience becomes interested in what you have to say, and they are intrigued by your presentation. It's a psychological thing. You may try it somehow, or like, for example, just not even, in fact, just think of a condition when you're with your friends. When you make eye contact during a basic conversation, the conversation seems more fun, right? Instead of when you're 2 or 3 friends and you're looking here and there while conversing. So you need to incorporate that even during a presentation, as in you need to make an eye contact, because as I've already said, making eye contact establishes the relationship between you and the audience. It also shows your confidence. And yeah, so that's it. See, if you aren't able to make eye contact, it's totally okay. You can, there's a common tip that you can focus on something on the background, some point, and just deliver the presentation. I'm just saying that making eye contact is always better as a presenter. And this comes, making eye contact and, presenting only comes from practice. So you need to practice a lot. So that's it.
Yeah, that's only the question. And for I would like to thank you from the GirlScript team that you have given us such a lovely presentation, and you will be affecting most of people's life, because the presentation work is always important in the student's life as well as in the corporate life. Because
Yeah,
if you are a good
totally.
presenter, you are definitely able to be successful in this competitive world, because your mind is having lots and lots of idea, but if you know how to present them, it will definitely let you be a successful.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree. Like there are people who have a lot of ideas, but they aren't able to, deliver those ideas properly and not. So yeah, presentation skills are really important.
So, so with this, we can wind up. But before
Okay.
winding up, saying you bye, I would remind the audience that this is not the end of the Rajasthan Regional Summit. There are many events waiting for you for the day third. In morning, we are having be the designing and the marketing one, and in the evening, be the boss, the freelancing event. And I request all you to be stay tuned with the channel and get updated.
Okay. Bye.